So why do we bother doing what we do?
I think for many coaches there's an integral desire to do it, isn't there? You've got to want to do this, be in this profession. There's one bit about what's the motivation of the coach. But I think there's also a piece about why do people engage with coaching at all? You know, why do business leaders and owners of business and family members?
It's become more common, hasn't it, over recent years? More
We've both
acceptable
been
to be
doing
coaches.
it for a while. We've both been doing it for about 18 years or so.
Yeah.
So I've
Combined
noticed...
3 decades.
Don't say that. I've noticed, I can remember when I first started coaching thinking I might get 1 or 2 clients, and, as more coaches came onto the market, that maybe it would dry up, but it's never going to happen, is it? There's always room.
Absolutely. Look, we only have to look
There's
around.
loads of room.
Everywhere there is somebody who's in a situation and they want to improve it, want to change it, there's the opportunity for coaching.
Yeah. So I guess for new coaches out there, or people thinking about even transitioning from, say, life coaching into business coaching, I guess we can say quite easily, confidently, that there's lots of room. There's lots of room for business. There's lots of room for either coaches who want to go into a niche area, or coaches who want to remain a more generalist.
I think that's a really
area.
interesting conversation as well, whether to specialise in one area of business or to generalise.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the generalisation can be a bit of a flawed strategy because not everyone knows everything about business.
Well, no one does, do they? Let's face it. No one ever knows everything about business.
Yeah.
And I think, certainly for some, coaches who are thinking about transitioning, or coaches who are uncertain about whether what they're doing is business coaching, I think that can happen. There's something, isn't there, about just being clear about what you're about, whether you've got a generalist business background and you want to coach across a business spectrum, or whether actually you decided, I don't know loads about business, but I know something about this one aspect. I know something about marketing, or I know a lot about people management, or I know a lot about financial management. But you then think about, as a coach, where might my niche be?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's good to look at the area where you're in flow and you really love what you do and do what you love and make that the specialisation.
Yeah.
Because there will be enough clients out there that will need that.
Absolutely. I had this conversation recently with someone, actually, who is thinking about, she's a director in a commercial organisation. She's thinking about whether she makes her second career, the coaching career. And we were just chatting about the mechanics of how do you go about creating a coaching business, creating a practice, what might she do? And she's a director in kind of quite a niche marketing area. And she said, I'd probably do it in marketing. And it was only thrown into a couple of questions. I discovered that she's actually really strong on working across cultures. She's done it for like 25 years. So she takes it, takes it for granted. Well, I know that's a growth area. You can see it all the time. That people want, which kind of markets have you worked in? What kind of people have you actually had to manage as a manager if you're moving into coaching? And when I said it to her, it just hadn't occurred to her. Have you thought about even thinking about your cross-cultural experience, whether that might be a niche for you? And you could just see the difference. She said, I would love that.
Yeah, the light bulb.
Will someone pay me to do that?
Yeah. That's lovely, and you can see it, can't you?
Yeah.
You say people light up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, isn't it, how a lot of people they almost forget their history. And everything they've done in the past, their career, comes with them and adds value to what they do. And there's enough people out there that will want it, need it.
But that's quite important too, isn't it, that history, that thing about history and, what is I think sometimes when we're working with clients, whether they're coaches or they're business leaders, it's helpful, isn't it, to sometimes think about what is your past story? What's the story you've got? What's your current story? And how would you like to create your future story? That kind of sense of what are you building from? Where's your base?
Yeah, and even if you're coming from a business which is totally unrelated to a business that you're coaching in, quite often those stories will map across.
Absolutely.
You know, it's looking for the themes, you know, overcoming adversity, you know, facing up to challenges, you know, maybe pitching for something that may have seemed beyond your possibilities, and sitting back and having a reflection about all the things you've done in your past careers. And I like the word career, doesn't it? It means to veer off in an unexpected direction.
Wherever it does.
And look for the metaphors that you can use in your coaching business.
Nice.
There's so much rich and depth there. Because really that's what business is, isn't it? It's like creating a story.
Yeah.
You know, it's the narrative, and looking at all the characters, and looking at the storyline, the direction people are going in. And I think one of the most powerful techniques in coaching is metaphor.
Yes. And if you think about what we do often if we're working with coaches and helping people to think about where do you want to go, all we're really doing is that, isn't it? We're saying, what's your story? What's the metaphor you want to create for your future? And how might you use that metaphorically to help you to get there?
Yeah, and what's the story that you keep referring to that may be holding you back?
Yeah.
You know, drop the stories.
Yeah, we've all had those, haven't we?
Oh yeah.
The I can't story, or I should story. You know, the kind of I should, because we've got something from our parents or
well, the stories that other
education.
people read to us from their stories.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still waiting to The Princess and the Pea. You know that story with all the mattresses where you suddenly realise that actually you've been a princess all along. I know that to be true.
You know it to be true.
I do, yeah. It's interesting, thinking about that, thinking about actually in terms of our coaching, in terms of developing coaches, in terms of thinking about how do you create a coaching practice and a coaching business. In effect, it's the same way that you would coach a business. You know, you coach a business owner in the same way, wouldn't you?
Totally, yeah. And I think that's a really important concept, that coaches have to go there first, which means the things that we've been coaching our businesses on apply to self.
Yeah,
I'm amazed by how many coaches that I've coached, and I say to them, well, let me see your business plan.
Yeah, okay.
And you get the blank stare. You know, they've not sat down, they've not done the numbers, they've not looked at their purpose, what it's really about, they've not had an inquiry about their values, you know, they've not done a self-reflective inquiry about their beliefs, what they think is possible, what's not possible. None of that's gone into a business plan.
Yeah. On no sense of the financials, what we're going to charge, how we're going to earn a living.
Yeah.
No sense of thinking
doing the number
through.
crunching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking of the reality.
Yeah.
Of running a business.
A duty of care, a responsibility to, you know, put a plan together. Because you know the plans don't always work, but at least we've got a plan to work to see if we're on track and off track.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing, because being a coach, I think there's a similarity to restaurateurs. That most people like going to restaurants and can probably cook a meal, but there's a difference between a bit of home cooking and going out and enjoying a meal and running a restaurant.
Yes, huge.
And coaching is the same. People think it's just, you know, having a chat, giving some good advice. There's a world of difference. There's a toolbox and a toolkit behind each and every one of us. You know, great coaches who've invested in ourselves.
Invested in our training.
Constantly. I mean, you're going on workshops, I know, I'm going on a workshop this weekend. We're still constantly learning, adding to the toolbox and sharpening the saw, as it is. And great restaurateurs, they practice their skill, they practice their craft.
Yeah, and I guess it also links back to, if you're thinking about business coaching, it's quite hard, isn't it, to coach. It kind of feels a bit inauthentic, I guess, sometimes. If you were coaching a business and getting them to focus on what are your inputs and your outputs, you know, what kind of return do you get in your business on your investment. And as a coach, you're not thinking about investment in yourself, investment in your practice, investment in your own business.
Yeah, there is an incongruency.
Yeah.
And I'm always amazed how many coaches don't employ a coach.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but somebody, was it Steve Crabb, who talks about why would you never, you know, you wouldn't expect to go to a dentist and find that they hadn't been trained
Yeah, because they don't see the value of it.
Because it doesn't value it. There's no point.
But no, I
What's
don't
the
have a
point?
dentist because you don't see the value.
Don't have a dentist.
Yeah.
There's no point. And it's the same thing, isn't it?
Very much so.
I've always had a coach. Have you always had a coach? Yeah.
Always. I've got a couple of coaches, some that are very weird, some that really push and challenge me,
Yeah.
and I've got a partner who's a great coach. Who's
Yeah.
constantly pushing and challenging.
Doesn't she just?
You know, that investment in self, I mean, coaching has become very popular. There's a lot of people coming into the business, and some of them are good. The difference between good and great, I think, is willingness to try new things, explore new things, push the boundaries, and to treat it as the profession that it is.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I know you've met people who do this, but the worst thing I can hear sometimes is someone saying, "I think I'm really good with people, and I'm good at talking, so I'm going to be a coach." And when you start to unpick with them, well, what does that mean for you professionally? How might you go about training? If their first answers are, well, what's the cheapest way I can do it? That might work, but there's something in that philosophy, isn't it, that makes me go,
it's like these
not going to work.
Online 3-day courses to become a coach and a certification.
Yeah.
I think a good measure of actually a coach is, I remember when people used to ask me, if they could join the assisting team for Dr. Richard Bandler.
Yeah.
And I was always saying to them, and they'd want to tell me what they've done. And I'd always stop and say, look, don't tell me what you can do, show me.
Yes.
And I'd set them a test straight away. And I'm always interested in the attitude they have. So, for example, it might be, if we were doing therapy work, there's somebody over there with a phobia, 15 minutes, let me see what you can do. And I'm not so interested in whether they get the result, I'm interested in the attitude they take.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think a really good test of a coach is, don't tell people what you can do, demonstrate it.
Do it.
Give them an experience of it.
Yeah. I think it's the same with building your practice too. I remember coaching somebody who had started, trained as a coach, started coaching, but was finding it difficult getting clients. And I can see him now. I remember sitting in a hotel room saying, just get your phone out. And the panic that went across his face, get your phone out, give me 10 names, phone one, and ask them, tell them that you're changing your profession, ask them if they know people who might want something that you have to offer. And the abject terror was just, it made me ask the question, are you sure you want to do this? Because there's a difference between training to be a coach and running a coaching practice.
Oh, totally, yeah. But I make the distinction about people working on the business, which is looking at the business plan. People sometimes spend more time designing their business cards and their letterheadings than they actually do working on the plan.
Yeah.
So it's working on the business and then working in the business. That's actually doing the business and working on ourselves as well. And sometimes a lot of people will spend a lot of time working on themselves, waiting to get it perfect before they would go out there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that all comes from fear. And they're going to encounter business clients who do the same. There's a new idea or a new project and people will work on it, work on it again and again, trying to get it perfect before it gets launched.
Yeah, and it just doesn't work, does it?
No, but the best thing is
Never get
really
anything done.
Get it as good as it can be, execute, launch it, measure the feedback, get the feedback, make the adjustments and just keep improving.
Yeah, it's almost becomes cyclical, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
You've got on a roll with your practice, a roll with your business.
Constantly improving.
Yeah, that quality improvement, whether that's on your business or in your business.
So, if there is a piece of advice for great coaches, is never stop learning.
Yeah, exactly. Never stop learning.
And
be really clear about your plan.
And get out there and do it. It's needed.
Indeed. That's something to think about, isn't it?
Yeah. Some things to think about.
Some things to think about.